Hi guys, and welcome to the Art of Tarot. This is an introduction video to another card in the tarot deck, and we're gonna look at the Six of Swords. I have my decks already prepared here, and I also have a third one. So we're gonna look at an overview for the Six of Swords, mainly in the Aleister Crowley deck, which is my favorite to-go deck for the people who know me well, and also, of course, for the Rider-Waite deck. It is a superficial type of introduction. I mean, compared to other people and other channels, it's probably not that superficial, so we're gonna touch a little more into research and into actual literature. So I'm not just quoting, anything. I'm really quoting people and information from actual books, and I will list the books also in the description box below. You find everything else in the description box below. I do readings, private, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for being here, and please enjoy this video. Please let me know what you think, and please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the POV perspective in a second. Alright, you guys, let's look at these cards. We do have three decks here. We do have the Rider-Waite deck, we do have the Aleister Crowley, Lady Frieda Harris, Thoth Tarot, and we do have the very beautiful Tarot de Marseilles, which is quite a traditional deck as well. So yeah, I want to start actually with the Rider-Waite deck because it is, of course, the most popular, and we always have the scene that we can interpret, which is a little easier than with the pip decks, as they're called, where there's just like geometric forms when it comes to the colors of the cards or the suits of the cards. So with the Six of Swords, we already see a scenery here of a couple of people, probably a family, or it looks like a family unit, sitting in a boat. And he is rowing with these six swords in the boat. He has a wand in his hand. We have a little bit of choppy water here on this side. We do have calm water here in the back, and we do have in the very far, when we look a little closer, in the very far, we have an island or land that has also forest on it, and trees, and green. It's not really green in this card, but it's also referred to as green or as fruitful. And and these people obviously decided to go into this new direction, or go into this direction into unknown waters, as it's often interpreted. There is this author that is quite popular, Rachel Pollack, who has this book on the tarot, and I have to say I'm quite critical about her takes often, because for some reason sometimes it just doesn't sit right with me. I'm not sure if anybody feels the same way, but in this case, she sees somehow a maybe deep worry or sorrow that we've internalized, and we've learned how to actually live with, and it doesn't really hurt us anymore. She sees that and interprets that somehow in these figures here, but I think it is really not so much a route we want to go down when we interpret this card, because I think it's really a card of going into fresh new directions and looking also in a sort of adventurous way for new answers in environments where we haven't been to yet. And this is the thought also that brings us to, I think, a much more interesting and appropriate interpretation of this card, or illustration of this card, that is the Aleister Crowley deck, which is called Science. In this deck, the card, the Six of Swords, is called Science. And as many of you know, the swords are the suits of the air element. So we are in astrology, we are also connecting to the air element, and air is always about the intellect, about ideas, about higher consciousness, about understanding, learning, and so on and so forth, communication, writing, all these things that we do with the mind. So it's very mind connected. And Science, of course, is also a card of the mind, where we really go into new directions. We look for answers, we look for environments in the unknown, we go into the unknown, we look for information information in the unknown, and we also have a foundation of knowledge already with us. And this is what these swords are supposed to represent actually. This is all this knowledge, all this understanding that we've gained in the past situations that we're carrying with us into this new environment, so that we can build upon the knowledge that we already have. And that's also kind of the idea of science, that we build upon knowledge that we've already accumulated. We are not just going into the dark. I mean, some people do in science, I suppose, but normally we have some things that we've already established, and we are researching from there, or we are researching with a fundamental basis of knowledge, and then we go into different places where we want to know more, where we want to figure out more, where we want to understand more. And I really like that this card is in both the decks here, as you can see, very close to the air element. We have a little bit of water as well, of course, and we do have this wand, which is also representative of fire energy in a sense, and it gives us this idea of also the will driving us forward. I like that there is a wand, because we can also find a connection with the wand and the swords, because there is both, they're both connotated as a male element. So the swords and the wands is archetypal masculine element, or the masculine element, and the coins or the pentacles and the cups or water and earth are more connotated with feminine element, or the female side of things, or the feminine side of things. So yeah, we have this idea of active forward movement into a new environment, seeking knowledge. And also what is beautiful with these sixes in general in the tarot, we do have this idea of balance and beauty. So when we look at these two cards especially, we see already this idea of symmetry, of balance. It's very geometrical. The hexagram, it's all very balanced. It's very symmetrical, and it's very center oriented. So we have this point in the center here where all these swords meet, and where they have kind of a common nominator that they meet. So all this information, all this knowledge that we have point to the same core. And it is also an indication that we find the truth within, we find the knowledge within. From all different directions we always come to the same point, to the same absolute truth, if there is something like that. And this absolute truth that we want to find, or that we want to define, is a truth that can only be within us and not outside of us. So it is beautiful that we are carrying all this information with us in this boat. And I'm not sure if you've ever had dreams of boats. I often dream that I'm in a boat. It's interesting. And therefore I often looked into different interpretations of this symbol. So the boat is, of course, kind of a symbol of us managing our emotions, also being safe in our emotional world. It depends on how, busy the waters are, how choppy the waters are, how calm the waters are. It depends, of course, where we're going. So in this case, it's a nice balance of going. Often the card is speaking, or people interpret it often as going into calmer waters. I would say it's not necessarily going into calmer waters, but I think managing the tides a little bit and having a certain new direction. That's what I would say is a little more accurate, even though it, of course, is a journey. Of course, it's a journey of transformation. We're going into a new place, we're going into a different place, and we're hopefully going into a more stable place, which is more the land than the water, actually. So the destination is the water, is the land more than the water in this card as well. And it is also, the land is, of course, speaking of manifested knowledge, maybe, or the earth element, or something that's manifested. So when we find the truth, or when we find answers, or when we find information that is solid, I want to say, then we have something that solidifies within us as well, and we find a new place within ourselves as well. So that is the symbolism here in a more picturesque, in a more figurative way, and here it's in a more abstract way. We do have with the Crowley card always also the connection to the planets and the signs. He is always referring to it on the card directly, so we do have Mercury in Aquarius here. When you want to look closer, we see here the Mercury sign, and we see the Aquarius sign here on the bottom of the card. And this is, of course, speaking of the air element, so the intellect, the mind, everything that is logic, everything that is information, everything that is learning, and everything that is also, in a sense, teaching. Especially with Mercury, we also communicate ideas, we really express our ideas, we're very expressive and extroverted also in our thinking. So it's also language, it's speaking, it's sharing, it's bringing outwards. And I'm just looking at my notes because I feel like I wrote down something about Mercury here. I guess not. Oh yeah. We are also, of course, talking about intelligence and humanity, because it's the cherub of man. So Aquarius speaks of the cherub of man, which are, for the biblical people or the Christian people who are interested in that theory, the four cherubs often are referred to in the tarot, or often a symbol that comes up, and it's the four, it's not necessarily angels, but angel type guardians of God's throne. So there is a Leo, Taurus headed, a eagle headed, and a man headed one. And the man headed one is also referred to Aquarius. So we have this also idea of the man headed guardian of God's throne, which is the intellect and which speaks of humanity, of course. So therefore we want to really look at the idea of knowledge. Knowledge, I think, in this card is very, very essential, and it doesn't matter in which deck. I think in this deck as well as in the Crowley deck here, of course, it's very directly referred to with the word science, but here also we are accumulating knowledge, and we're also carrying knowledge with us. So these 6 swords are also knowledge we are carrying with us, and of course it could be also knowledge about past situations that might have been disappointing. I don't think we have to see it as something that we have to carry with us, as something that weighs us down. So I don't really want to buy into that narrative or into that interpretation of that card, because when we really look at this card for a little longer, I think it's very relaxing, it's very chilling, it's very not in a bad way, it's very, very relaxing and very calm. So it is not a stressful card to look at, it is not a heavy card to look at. I think it's quite an airy and comfortable card to look at, and it looks quite harmonic here, especially also, as I said, with the 6s. And the 6s in general are the, how can we say that, they are, Crowley says they are the center of the whole system, and by the system he is referring to the tree of life in the Kabbalah, and they are the most important numbers, cards of the suit. So the 6s are the most important, referring to Crowley. And also he says that the 6s represent the elements at their practical best. So we really do have the most balanced out ideal number of the suit in the cards. And with that we go into really new areas of understanding, of consciousness, and of higher knowing, which is beautiful. I wanted to show this card as well because we have this rose here, as well as when we look at this cross in the rose, it's the very middle of the card. We have also a rose here, if you can see that, if the camera is focusing. Yeah, it is. And this is also a symbol of the absolute truth within, the knowledge within. So there is this rose of truth, which is also the Rosicrucian rose. Is that the English word? I hope so. And it is a symbol that also represents truth, which is also as well very beautiful. Again, this card I wanted to show because of the symmetrical and geometrical, very balanced out form. So as you can see, this is also very symmetrical here in its illustration, and it's just a pretty card. I just wanted to give a little bit of a third aesthetic here. I was thinking for a second in this video, should I also get some modern or more contemporary decks in it? But I feel like I should maybe just let me know in the comments if you would be interested in just really introducing a whole deck, because I think it would be more interesting to really go through a whole deck and see how people illustrate the tarot nowadays, or contemporary artists, or artists that are just a little more you know, up to date or state of the art. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. So let's see how we can wrap this up. I want to talk for a second about the interpretation, of course. So, oh, I'm sorry, that was, I'm very sorry. So I want to talk about the interpretation, of course, to wrap this up, and we can go into different topics. I think we should talk about probably money, or finances and profession, as well as love and relationships, because the general overview we already had, obviously. So if we want to see this from a let's say professional standpoint, then we can really see this as trying to improve or use, not even improve, but use our communication skills. We have good communication skills and we have good understanding of a situation. We are also good at connecting and maybe at networking and going into new areas that we haven't been in. It makes a lot of sense, right? And then we can also balance out maybe conflict, which is nice. So if we have conflict in our professional situations, we could find a balance or new ideas how to deal with that. Especially with Aquarius, we're also about community. We are also about thinking outside of the box. We're also about innovation. So we want to maybe find a solution that is very innovative. You know what I mean. Sorry, cannot find the right pronunciation. And we want to think outside the box a little bit to find solutions, and we can. So also maybe we will have new insights and more unconventional ideas when it comes to our professional life, and that can be very, very helpful, of course. When it comes to our relationship life, you know, I mean, I suppose you guys have been around here on the YouTube, and we have this inflationary, very generic type of reading the cards, and it is sometimes helpful to learn the meaning of the cards, because there is of course some truth to those things, but really it sometimes really upsets me because it doesn't really do honor to the system that is so beautiful and that has much more depth than how we are, I really want to say, abusing it here on this platform. Some people kind of abuse the deck for, you know, or the system for, I don't know what, for their way of doing things. No shade, but you know, it's just, I think we should give it a little more credit than what we do here on TikTok and YouTube and all the platforms. So no, the Six of Swords is not just like a breaking up and moving on card. No, the Six of Swords is not just like a movement card. The Six of Swords has much more facets, I want to say. First of all, let's not forget, there's 3 people in this. So this does not necessarily mean somebody's breaking up and moving away. This could mean we are figuring out new solutions, how to move together in a relationship into a new environment that we haven't been before, that we explore areas, that we explore spaces, liminal spaces, as they like to say these days in the arts, liminal spaces that we haven't explored yet, you know, where we still are in a process of defining what's the next position where we want to go. We have a destination, we're moving towards a destination, but we're figuring out how to get there, you know, and this is the whole figuring out part, which is very exciting actually. So this does not have to be a breakup and a moving away. It's not that easy. You can make it that easy, don't get me wrong. You can, if you want to make the tarot that easy or that simple, let's put it that way, that's cool, whatever, but just know that there's much more to the system than just 1 or 2 or 3 keywords to make up a story. So yeah, relationships. So we could really find an optimum of balance between your emotional and your intellectual needs. So also in relationships you could be getting better, or you could be very capable of figuring that out and balancing that out with a partner. Or if you're single, you know, just figuring out what that means for you, and therefore really doing your work, doing your research also. I always say this card, when I have it as a practical advice in a reading, for me it's a research card. You go into research, read books, learn as much as you can, you know, listen to people, listen to podcasts, listen to people who know stuff, and figure out new information that you can use for yourself. It is good to also clear up stuff that is confusing, or, you know, find clarity in situations. So we want to find answers that we can use. So of course clarity is good, and the clarity where to move towards, because they know where they're moving. They just don't know what's going to happen in between, but they know where they want to go to. So yeah, I think this is the end of this little overview and introduction to the 6 of Swords. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments if you have anything to add, or if you've missed something, or maybe, you know, I'm also not perfect, maybe you want to correct me on something. But yeah, I will list also the books that I'm using for these little overviews in the comments. So if you want to look deeper into the literature, then you can do that. And I hope you will be back for another one of these, and I can't wait to see you next time. And until then, please subscribe. Sorry, if you're new here, subscribe, like, comment, and I will see you hopefully soon in the future. So see ya and have a good day. Bye.